Our next speaker or next topic area is prescribed burn associations and training, the past, present, and future of private land burning. And our speaker after lunch, who will surely keep us on our toes, is John Weir from Oklahoma State University. I asked Pete if we should say extension after his name, and Pete goes, he does everything. We'll just say he's Oklahoma State University, God, little g. So, and last night I learned that John teaches a 7:30 class, like every day for the last however long, so he knows what he's talking about. There is a bio for John. Dr. Weir, what do you like to be called? Mister.
No, that's my dad.
Anyway,
Call me John.
he has a biography in the program if you're curious about learning more about him after his presentation today. So without further ado, I will hand this to John.
All right, can everybody hear me all right? Very good. I get to be right after lunch. That's always a great time to be. So I got to keep you all awake. And you got to keep me awake. Also, may have problems. I speak Okie. I grew up there. I'm a fifth generation Oklahoman. So, you know, I have some words that y'all don't understand, and I've been hearing a lot of stuff I don't understand what y'all are saying. Pete, what's a tar road? I don't understand that one yet either. Anyway, so I'm going to talk to you about burn associations, the effectiveness of it, effectiveness of what private landowners do. Glad to see all the private landowners here. Also glad to see all the PBA members that are here and people talking about burn associations and what we can do to get those done. Doing that. Like I said, I work at Oklahoma State University. I've been there for 34 years. I've done a little bit of burning in the past 34 years plus. I've done over about 1,500 burns in 7 states and all kinds of different vegetation types and doing that. So I've had all kinds of experiences with fire and how we can do that and how it operates and what we can do. But again, biggest thing I like to do is working with landowners and doing training and getting more fire on the ground, because that's what it's all about. Because I will say one thing, you know, we see a lot of this stuff, it's all talking about grasslands, and I've also heard the term fire as a tool, and I hate that term. Fire is not a tool. Fire is part of the ecosystem process. Fire is just as important as rainfall on a prairie, because you can, if you don't use fire, don't use the term grassland, because you won't have one. Without fire, grasslands are a product of fire. And without fire, you have no grasslands. You've got to have fire to have grasslands. And that's our problem that we've had. We've limited fire, and our grasslands are becoming limited. So we've got to have that in there. And so I was wanting to bring up first just a perspective about fire. And again, we've heard a little bit of talk about different things. There's some things that go on that I think some of it is kind of elitism, where some groups of people think they have the monopoly on fire and they're the only people that know about fire, that this is the only way to do fire and you can do that. And so a lot of times you have to look at the track record. You got to look at the facts of what goes on. And so if you do look at it, Pete had alluded to right before lunch talking about NWCG. It's their National Wildland Fire Coordinating Group. It's their training protocol for those agencies and stuff. But also there's a thing called the National Interagency Fire Center, where it takes the top 5 or the main 5 departments in the federal departments that use or utilize fire or use fire to manage their land. And if you look at it, from 2010, 2019, those 5 federal agencies averaged conducting 4,484 burns on about 1.6 million acres a year, annually. So they burn about 1.6 million acres a year. And that's in all 50 states on what they do. Now, the Forest Service is the biggest culprit or the biggest burner out of that whole group of 5. And if you take them out and you exclude them, then that only leaves about 1,500 burns on 500,000 acres that the Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, BIA, and BLM do. Then you also think about it that those 5 groups, they oversee 95% of the federal lands in the U.S. And that's 609 million acres. And if you put that total in there, they burn 0.003% of the land they manage every year. That's not a lot. And so again, you can look at it, there's some numbers and fires and doing that. So let's see what private landowners do. This is just going to look at 2 states, Oklahoma and Kansas. If you think about it, Oklahoma is 95% all private lands, 98. Kansas is 98% doing that. Those private ownerships, we burn in Oklahoma and Kansas annually anywhere between 2 and 4 million acres a year on private lands. What did they burn annually in 50 states? 1.6. We burn more than that or double than that every year in just 2 states on private land. It can be done. It is done. You also go to look at Georgia, Florida. They burn, each one of those states burn well over 1 million acres a year in those respective states. Again, there is quite a bit of federal lands in some of those states, but if you look at it, that's what you get. And so again, you got to look at it, private landowners are the burners of this country. That's where fire is. We have proven knowledge, we have proven experience, and we also have the need for that because 60% of the land in this country is private ownership. And doing that, and again, fire use should not be limited. And that's what people are trying to do a lot of times, again, going back to that elitism. Thinking that, man, they've got the secret handshake. You guys don't know the secret handshake, do you? You can't burn unless you know the secret handshake. What does the secret handshake have to do with anything? I know how to burn. And we can do that. And also, prescribed burn associations are the example of how fire can, does, and should function. And we've proven that. And I know you guys here with the PBAs here in South Dakota have proven that already in this state and everywhere else. And so you think about it, if you don't know what it is, that's a burn association. What is that? Just a group of landowners that get together, pool their resources, and help each other burn. In Oklahoma, it's just a bunch of redneck cowboys that get together and burn and do whatever. And that's what it is. And they accomplish a goal, and they do it safely and effectively. And I'll show you that, and we'll talk more about that here as we get going on that. The biggest thing is definitely showing a trend, and the trend is for 2 things. The trend is the need that we're seeing across the country that fire is a necessity and fire is needed for many reasons in many different places. In the Great Plains, we have our poster child, and I've heard it talked about many times, and that's cedar, right? Woody plants, encroachment on our grasslands. You go to parts of other places, even in forested regions, you're getting understory, you're getting stuff taken over, what's supposed to be there. You go further west, the California folks and things, they're doing it mainly, they're talking about wildfire control and containment and doing that. So those needs and things are out there, and everybody has different needs, but the solution is all the same. It's all about fire and getting more of it on the ground. Currently, in 1998, we had 2 PBAs in the U.S. As of now, which this is just a few months old, there's 141 in 19 states, and that number's already grown again. But there's 141 of them. You can see where they're at from Alabama, Florida, east. Again, the biggest majority of them started in the Great Plains, in Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and Texas, and they're spread from there on doing that. So you can see, but it's a trend and it's a need. And again, these are all private land, people burning and trying to get fire back on the ground and back in those systems like they used to be. I'm going to kind of give you the example of what we've been doing in Oklahoma. We started our first PBA, actually started my first PBA in 1997 there in Oklahoma. And then we continued on, slowly grew. Currently we have 26 burn associations in Oklahoma. Not all of them are as active as you'd like them to be, but that's what we've got. And then in 2011, we formed the Oklahoma Prescribed Burn Association. The Oklahoma Prescribed Burn Association is a 501c3, not-for-profit, and our main goal was to get groups of people together in the state, work with the existing burn associations to provide them training, funding for equipment and things like that, and also help start new burn associations. Because again, as I've heard before, you hear in here, and that's true, PBAs are grassroots, locally led organizations. They need to be that way, because that's what it is. But also you need help. You need help getting it. And that's where it's a partnership, and it's a place to work between universities, NGOs, Pheasants Forever, Audubon, the agencies, NRCS, Fish and Wildlife Partners Program, all those people, they work together because the partners have the funding, and the landowners have the land and the work and the need. But again, you got to work together to do that. And again, trying to get those funded, get those led, and get those working, it's a partnership program. It's partners to do that kind of stuff. Because the deal is, as landowners here, how many of you landowners in here right now are getting paid to be at this meeting right now? 0. All right, all you agency folks, raise your hands, because you're getting paid to be at this meeting right now, right? You are. You're getting paid to be at a meeting. Landowners, it's taken away from your chores and your daily activities and things you've got to do. But that's how much interest they have is to being here, is doing that, is they're not getting paid to be here. But we get paid to go to meetings. We get paid to write grants and to help find funding for stuff like that. And that's where we can help. That's where we partner with each other to get things done. And that's what we set out to do with our burn association and doing that. Like I said, we're a 501c3. We also set up a statewide radio frequency. We applied for a license with the FCC. We have our own state frequency that we program all of our radios to, so that when we buy new radios, they go out to the burn associations, and that way too, they're all on the same frequency, so if they want to partner and help each other, they can bring their radios and talk to each other, no problem. Or if, a burn association, no longer exists, no interest there to do that, then we can take those radios, give them to somebody else, and do that kind of stuff. We've also received a lot of funding. Since 2012, we've received over $1.2 million in funding. Our partners, again, at NRCS is one of our biggest one, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Partners Program there in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, National Wild Turkey Federation, Quail Forever, Oklahoma Conservation Commission, Oklahoma Association of Conservation Districts, Joint Ventures, Nature Conservancy, all big help, big funders of everything we can do. All that money, over 88% of it, has been spent to provide equipment, training, and to help pay for some coordinators that we have on doing that. So again, majority of that money stays right there with all the burn associations. Our equipment, we try to, with every new burn association, we provide them with a burn trailer, which is typically a 5x10 enclosed cargo trailer with drip torches, leaf blowers, chainsaws, road signs, weather instruments, anything else, radios, anything that we can do to get that, and that's up to them to take care of that and monitor that. Also with a 60-gallon slip-on spray unit for a UTV, doing that, so that's been a big part of it. We also have some coordinators. They're just part-time people that we've hired. Most of them are retired NRCS employees. And those coordinators go out and work with the burn associations to help write fire plans, do site visits, help them with burns, help do trainings, help attend meetings, do whatever needs to be done at that level. We also have what we call local coordinators, and those are people that actually are the members of a burn association. A lot of times it's the president or whoever's kind of takes the role on itself to do a lot of the leading of that burn association. We've started about, might as well start paying them. At least they're not going to get rich, but at least it's going to pay them for some of their time and effort that they put into to make that a good organization and to do that. Our coordinators, like I said, since 2018, they worked over 4,400 hours. They drove 76,000 miles and did over 1,100 total activities. And those activities include site visits, writing burn plans, assisting with burns, providing trainings and that. Working with 24 of the different PBAs. You can see they wrote 662 burn plans on 93,000 acres and assisted with 476 burns on almost 70,000 acres during that time. They've also assisted with some landowner projects with NRCS and other to help get that funding spent and done and get those activities completed with the PBA members. And so that's been a big part of it. The other thing we started doing was in 2015, we have a burn entry form. It's on our website. Our website is up there. It's ok-pba.org. And you click on that. That goes to our website. And there's a link that says enter a burn, and you can click on that. This is not only for Oklahoma. I have it set up. It's nationwide. And we're just trying to get information about burning. We don't want any personal information. We don't ask for any personal information at all. The most personal that it gets is asking what county and what state the burn was conducted in, and if you're a member of a burn association, the name of it, and that's about it. Because and then we ask, there's about 20 questions relating to how many acres it was burned, the weather conditions, goals and objectives, what kind of fire breaks, and different things like that, and we're going to kind of go over it. So we started that in 2015 to help us get some data and some information, because also that's one of the things that's lacking about prescribed fire across this country is to look at the safety record and the results and what is getting done. You know, people have all these preconceived notions about stuff. Oh, if you do a burn, it's going to get away. Really? People say, well, I don't want to burn because I'm going to get sued. Really? Show me the facts. That's the deal. Where's the facts? And let's have them, because we need them. We need them to defend ourselves. We also need them to prove to people that, hey, this is not what you think it is. This is not the most dangerous activity that people do. This is not the liability risk that people think it is. You know, and so how can we do that? And that's by getting information. So this is information since 2015. This is just for Oklahoma. This is just from all the burn associations in Oklahoma. I've had reported from the different PBAs in Oklahoma 1,386 burns on almost 500,000 acres. The average burn unit's 316 acres in size. 1 acre was the smallest reported. 13,480 was the biggest burn unit that was reported being conducted. Burns are conducted in every month of the year. And growing season burns, which to us, growing season burns are burns that start in May and end up in October. They are becoming more common, so we're seeing more growing season type activity with our burning. This is just a graph just kind of showing the acres, total acres that gets burned. Within doing that, you see back in 2020 was our biggest year. We had over 81,000. That was actually during the peak of COVID. And one of the reasons I say that was the biggest one, because nobody had anything better to do than to burn, and everybody in Oklahoma got together and burned. And we didn't wear masks, so anyway. But doing that, but you can also see, I could throw a rainfall chart up there, and you can see when was the driest year. Probably 2022, the least amount of acres burned, because again, people just concerned and it's dry and doing that, so yeah. And then you can see when we have good years, good numbers, just like this last year. That's not, I haven't got all the total for 2024 in, but we're getting close to, we're going to be close to breaking our record that we set in 2020. This year has been a really good year, except it did get dry this summer and it slowed a lot of people down. This is just the total number of burns conducted during that year, and you can see that it, again, fluctuates by weather and conditions and things that are going on within that, so it keeps that busy. And that's the average burn unit size, kind of the same thing. It just kind of fluctuates from year to year, but again, it's averaging just about 316 acres is what the long-term average is so far on that. That shows our burn activity by month, the number of burns that were reported by month. Again, you can see that definitely February, March, and April is our traditional burn season. That's when, again, we see most of our burning get completed during that time. But the good thing is we're seeing burns getting completed year-round. Because, again, you talk about that, and people allude to it. You know, Pete showed a great graph showing again, asking the question, why do you not burn? And it listed a lot of different reasons why you burn. And a lot of times, and I was really surprised that liability was as low as it was, because that's typically nationwide, that's number one reason why most people don't burn. But once you get people to burn, and you ask them that same question, did you get all your burns completed this year, or what kept you from getting anything done? And you know what the number one answer to that is? Weather. Because we limit ourselves to a short season, and we try to get stuff done. And again, we have bad conditions during that time. The weather doesn't cooperate, and we don't get it done. Well, if we start spreading that out, then we can get those burns done within a year. We can't limit ourselves to just one season of the year or one time of the year to do that. And that's what they're doing, and that's why we're seeing more activity. And again, this is just the total number of growing season burns. We're getting up to where it's almost 25% of all the burns that are being conducted are in the growing season now in Oklahoma of what we're doing. Just real quick, average crew size, 10.1. I'm not sure who the 0.1 is. I know some of y'all that burn a lot, you probably have a guy on the crew that's 0.1. Right, Pete? Yeah. The range is 2 to 22 people on a burn. But the coolest thing is that it shows up there, if you total that up, there's been 13,999 people participate in PBA burns in Oklahoma since 2015. That's a lot. And yeah, granted, that's a lot of them are the same people, but that's all right. That's man hours, and that's people that are getting things done and getting things accomplished. The interesting thing is, if you look at it, the crew size is trending downward. Earlier on, it was about 14 people on average, or that. Now it's down to about 8 with a total average of 10. Why is that? Is it a loss of interest or lack of interest? I don't think so, because the number of PBAs have grown. Again, in 2010, we had 12 PBAs in Oklahoma, and we have 26 now. They're increasing. Is it more about experience, better equipment? People are becoming more confident, more relaxed in their fire, so we're doing things with less? Not sure. I really can't answer that. The next thing is we ask people, why are you burning? We have a choice of these 6 items here of goals and objectives, or why are you burning? Number 1, cedar control. 79% of all burns. Again, I know I'm from Oklahoma. You think that's weird, and I'm not real smart. And if you total that, yes, that's over 100%. If you total that whole column, but you can pick, again, you can burn for more than one reason at a time, right? And that's what people are doing. And so 79% of all burns are for cedar control, 73% for woody plant suppression, other woody plants. Again, 72% of all of our burns, again, livestock-based reasons for doing that. But the interesting thing is wildlife is creeping up and gaining on it really quick, and it's at 64% now of all that. Again, wildfire control, 45%. Again, why the people are burning is to control or contain wildfire and reduce that risk. Probably the most wrong number is training, 33% of all those burns. I'm sorry, that should be 100%. Every burn's a training burn, right? We're always learning. We're hopefully training new people every time we're doing that. But also, even as experienced burners, we should be learning something from every burn that we do on doing that. And so all burns are training burns to me on doing that. The weather conditions that we burn under, 106 degrees, is the extreme, 7% RH, and 35-mile-an-hour winds. That's a good prescription, isn't it? You can get a lot of stuff done that day. People look at it and say, oh my gosh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. But that ain't all. That's just the extremes. The chart shows you what the averages are. The average temperature is about 71 degrees. Yeah, the range is 106 to 40. Within that, relative humidity is somewhere between 55 and 36%. So average relative humidity, with extremes of 7 down to 97. I'm kind of worried about the 97. I don't know if you can get a whole lot burnt with 97. But anyway, they put that down on that. And winds anywhere from 6 to 13 mile an hour. Again, with that, kind of 0 to 35 being a range within that. And not all burns are that way. And that's the way you got to think about it. You see those extremes and you see those things that are in there. But there's burns that can be done very simply and easily. Again, there's burns that can be done with one person because of where it's located, how it's located, and if you just think through it a little bit and say, if I pick the right wind direction, all I gotta do is light it and let it go, because where's it gonna go, kind of deal. Then there's other burns that we do. We need more people, we need more equipment, we need a certain wind direction, we need certain things. And that's what prescribed fire is all about. It's not about just dropping matches and doing out there and doing that. It's thinking through that thought process and getting things done. And that's what they're doing on doing that. But this is the coolest part of it. 80% of all those burns that's being reported have volatile fuels involved in it. Again, as some of those people say, oh, landowners, they don't know how to burn, they can't do that. Yes, they can. And we're burning with 80% of all of our fires have volatile fuels. That's volatile fuels are cedar, sand sagebrush, blackberries, other stuff that's out there that creates big flames, good firebrands, things like that. And they do that. 96% of it's live standing trees, 47% is cut, not piled, 12% is piled. We kind of look at it that way. But again, you're seeing the majority of all these burns that are taking place have volatile fuels. The hardest thing to burn, the most risk involved to burn. And so how does that? And so that goes to the safety record, and that's one of the questions we ask. The questions we ask is, was there a spot fire on your burn, or was there an escape fire? And I'll define those real quick for what our definitions are. A spot fire is any fire that occurs outside the burn unit, no matter what the cause. It can be floating ember, ill-prepared fire breaks, errant crew member runs fire outside, whatever. I'm not worried about what caused it, just that it happened. But a spot fire then is one that occurred, but you put it out with the people and equipment that were on site. It's a spot. The next one is an escape fire. Same thing, fire that gets outside the burn unit no matter what the cause, but you have to call for assistance to put it out. So you're calling the local fire department, whomever, more people, we got to get more people here to put it out. That's what you do. So that's a difference. That's a spot fire and that's an escape fire. And if you look at it, the safety records are spot fires occur in about 15% of all the burns. That's about 1 in 6 burns that are getting conducted are going to have a spot fire. And that's just the cost of doing business. You're going to have spot fires. But the deal is, you usually know when they're going to occur, where they're going to occur. You get on them quickly, and they're small and they're simple, and you're done. It's just like riding a horse. You're going to come off, right? It's like driving a car. Inevitably, you're going to have a wreck. We hope. We take every preparation not to. But we got to be prepared for that. That's what happens. Escape fires, 3%. 3% of all these burns that have been conducted are doing that. And remember, cedar present on all of these burns, or 80% of all these burns that are reported on doing that. So 15%, and again, you can see that's trending downward. It was 20 early on, and then the trend is kind of downward. Why is that? I'm thinking, again, more experience, better equipment, things like that, can see that. But also if you look at it, on doing that, also fires going from restoration burns back to maintenance type burns. They're a lot simpler and easier. Again, we removed a lot of those volatile fuels and things like that. That's a big part of it. But if you look at that too, the number of spot fires, there's the interesting part. The majority, 73% of all the spot fires reported were less than 1/10 of an acre in size. Now remember, everybody always talks about fire, there's a fire going to get out, I'm going to get sued, and it's going to burn the whole county up, right? Do y'all hear that here in South Dakota? I hear that in Oklahoma, Texas, everywhere. Oh, it's going to get out, we're going to get sued, and it's going to burn the whole county down. Really? Well, if you look at these numbers, 73% of all that on spot fires, less than 1/10 of an acre, 13% less than an acre. So 86% of all that's less than an acre in size. And those 1/10 of an acre, I guarantee you, are no bigger than that table you're sitting at right now. No big deal. Then you go look at escaped fires, which are only 3% of the total number of burns that's being conducted. And if you go in there and throw that number in there, 10 acres, you look at that, that's 60% of all the escaped fires that were reported in were less than 10 acres in size. So how many 10-acre counties y'all have here in South Dakota? We got 10-acre. Everybody's talking about burning the whole county down. I didn't know we had so many 10-acre counties in Oklahoma either. Golly, where'd they go? And look at that. Less than 100 acres. There was 10 burns reported out of that whole thing. But here's the big one. Look at that. Greater than 1,000-acre escaped fire. That's the one that might do something. 0. That's the safety record. Look up here on spot fires. 0. Where's that at? Another question, keep going back to the safety record. Was there an insurance claim or a lawsuit tied to this fire? And again, all I've ever seen, we've had 4 people say that they've had insurance claims, that they've had to file insurance claims because of that. They're all, I don't know all of them for sure, those 4. I know a couple of them. No large sum of money. One of them was actually about $4,000, and it was because they forgot there was a telephone line junction box in the ditch, and they melted all the wiring on there, and the telephone company made them pay for it, so they just turned it over to their insurance. That was one of them. So where's all these big lawsuits? Where's all these big insurance? And speaking of lawsuits, how many were there? 0. No lawsuits. No damage. Again, these are all private landowners, a bunch of hillbilly redneck cowboys that don't know nothing, and they don't have no certification at all other than that they're certifiably believe in fire. They're private landowners just like you are. They're doing it, and you can do that. Smoke issues, there was about 12 of them reported, but again, there was no claims, no lawsuits, no incidents or anything like that. And the thing is, you look at it, that's a 0.1% that you're going to have a smoke issue on that. Which again, Oklahoma, we got more folks than you do, but we're small. And smoke should always be an issue. You should always be thinking about the close impacts of smoke, especially highways, neighbors, communities. But, it's not the big issue that it is like in Florida and in the Southeast, in those smaller states with high populations where smoke is a big issue. And also, they don't have the weather conditions that we do. We got, the wind. Man, smoke goes and gets out of here. Smoke's typically not an issue because it gets out of here and does that. And so that's what shows. So the safety records show that. And so, again, that's what I want you to think is, again, that private landowners can and do burn effectively without all the training, without all the numbers, and without the alphabet soup of doing this or doing that, doing that. And fires also, it's not the risk or the liability that everybody thinks it is. Again, show me that kind of information. Pete already alluded to that earlier when he said he doesn't know of anything that from a private land standpoint with a properly conducted prescribed fire. Now I can talk about, there's things with lawsuits that go on, but if you go look at the lawsuit in fire, what is it typically? Railroad started a fire, done damage, power lines slapping together during wildfire, drought conditions, doing that. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens, but is that a properly conducted prescribed fire? No. And so where is that? Again, I look for those. I look for those things that are out there, and there's very few of them that ever get listed or ever get sent to court or doing anything like that. And so it's not that risk, it's not that liability that you can think of. Now, like you said, the biggest ones I can think of were ones that the federal agency started. New Mexico, a couple of them in New Mexico, and all that. So doing that. And again, fire is an important part of each and everyone's management decisions. Again, it's about goals and objectives. That's what separates a prescribed fire from a controlled burn, having measurable goals and objectives. Why are you burning? What are we trying to do, and how do we get it accomplished? And that's what that does. And so it should be a part of our everyday decisions on what we do, how we can get it done, and especially if you're wanting to burn and doing that, you need to wake up every morning going, what can I burn today? Because it has to be a priority. If fire's not a priority, it will never get accomplished. Think about that. If it's not the priority, it will never get done. And if you're wanting to rely on somebody else to do it for you, it will never get done. Just like what that mama always said, right? If you're going to want to do it yourself. Right? I'm doing that. And again, as I said earlier, you cannot have a grassland without fire. That's what doing that. So, with that, that's all I have. I appreciate the time. Thank you for all your hospitality and inviting me up here. Appreciate it. I did wear socks. I dressed up for you. I usually don't wear socks. But that was me. I didn't really do it for y'all. It's just I'm cold. I should have my flip-flops and shorts on, but anyway. I burned in them too, but that's why I don't have no hair on my legs. But anyway.
You have about 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Some questions, or we can.
We have any 7-minute questions?
I can run the microphone down if you want.
I think I've answered all their questions.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
All right.
Oh, wait.
Right there.
Here.
There we go.
You speak into this microphone. I'll go to the furthest.
John, I imagine a prescribed burn association needs bylaws. Where would a person come across a good set of bylaws?
That's a great question, and I'll answer your question. I'm not on, am I? There we go. How about that? Bingo. Bylaws. I would talk to your neighboring burn associations. Also on our OPBA website, we have a thing set up there about setting up one. So we have bylaw templates that we've used. We're trying to get that stuff set up. We're trying to make it easy, and it's not Oklahoma centric. We want everybody can use the same kind of stuff and doing that. The other thing that I wanted to stress is that there's not a cookie cutter, hard and fast rule on how a burn association should be or set up. I'm for however it makes people operate. And I'll tell you this, so I've got burn associations in Oklahoma that are sticklers on bylaws and guidelines and all that stuff, and that's fine because it works for them. I've got a couple of PBAs that have nothing written down whatsoever, and if you probably made them write something down, they'd quit. And that's fine. I don't care. As long as you're getting fire on the ground safely and effectively, get after it. Whatever works for the group, and it's around that. And that's the way it should be. So don't go into PBAs thinking it's got to be this 1, 2, 3, 4. We got to follow these rules and have all this stuff and do that. They work however they can work on doing that. But go to our website, that ok-pba.org website, and there's a link on how to form a burn association. It's got templates for like equipment checkout, bylaws, a lot of that different stuff. Again, everybody's thought of that stuff already. They've already been through that struggle, so let's don't reinvent the wheel, because a lot of people's already been through the same growing pains that everybody else has. And so they've addressed a lot of those problems.
We got one more over here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. The data you presented was really convincing, and I was wondering, a couple questions. Who coordinates the collection of that data, and is this sort of data collected nationwide in the different state PBAs?
Yeah, I coordinate it. I get the data, and so I've got it. I'm doing that, and I've got it from all over the country. In doing that, I do have some data from the South Dakota, very little, it's limited, but I do have some from the South Dakota. I thank y'all, the ones, if anybody's in here that's entered data in there for us, I appreciate it, and please do more. And if you've got older burns, like later that you've done last spring, go ahead and go back and enter it in there, because the more we can get in there, the more it can help. It's not only helping Oklahoma, it's helping all the PBAs, it's helping all that information and stuff that's going on within that. And so it's important to get all that on that. Because one thing I will mention, PBAs, like I said, are being, they're coming to the forefront and people are seeing it. I don't know if any of y'all have seen the National Prescribed Fire Act that was put before Congress this last year. It actually in there's a line talking about prescribed burn associations in a national bill. And I didn't have anything to do with putting it in there. So people know about them because they're growing and they're doing that. And so that's important. The more we can get out there, and again, showing the effectiveness of how effective PBAs are is very important and what we can get done. Anything else?
We got one more.
John, you mentioned your Oklahoma Association of PBAs, you know, the mothership. What's the advantage of that, in your opinion, maybe for other states?
The advantage of our state association is it gives a lot of the agencies in our state that work with fire and help trying to do that, it gives them a clearinghouse to put funds into that we can do that. And that way all the PBAs within the state aren't fighting each other for it. You know, because that's where you get some of that activity going, where you'll have 2 or 3 different PBAs trying to get a grant from Pheasants Forever on equipment. And it's like, well, I can give them this and that, and wait, do that. And so bringing it all together, and also the biggest thing, our board of directors, we have about 10 people on our board of directors. Half of them are presidents of PBAs. The other 5 represent Oklahoma State University Extension, Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, Oklahoma Conservation Commission, the OCA Institute, and who's my last one I'm missing? NRCS has a seat at the table with us on that. But again, they bring that to us, again, helping to find funding and stuff so that the PBA members, the landowners out there, the actual people that are doing all that, they don't have to sit and look for grants, write for grants and do that. They bring stuff to us on what they want. You know, our big push here in the last several years is everybody's been wanting UTV sprayers because everybody's got UTVs now. And so we've got a producer or a company that makes 60-gallon slip-on spray units that'll fit in the back of pretty much any UTV. I think we've bought over 40 of those things in the last 5 years doing that. Now, our next push is going to be for equipment. Everybody wants nurse tanks to fill up those UTVs. And so we're going to start looking for funding to buy equipment for that, to get that done. Doing that, just like the radio frequency, buying radios, you know, different issues that come up. Again, we've been instrumental in, in Oklahoma, we have a law about county commissioners can institute a burn ban by the county. Well, they weren't following the rules of how that's supposed to be stated. So we got an exemption because they were putting burn bans on when they weren't supposed to be, and it was good weather conditions to burn. And so we put an exemption in there that stated that, you know, if you had a written fire plan, which that, again, just like here, it's not a requirement to burn with, but we stated that if you're going to burn under a burn ban, you have to have a written fire plan and notify the local fire department, and you're good to go. And that we helped get that passed, that amendment passed on that law within that, and that's part of OPBA of doing that. So there's a lot of good benefit. There's a lot of good benefits to having that. Texas has a state association. Kansas has one. Nebraska has one. Doing that. Arkansas just formed one on doing that. So, and they're all, again, like I said, they're just like PBAs. Not every one of them's the same.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you.